Yesterday, hindi ko pala tanda kung saan tayo natapos. Saan nga ba tayo natapos, guys? Sino nakakaalala, guys? Nakalimutan ko na agad kasi kakaklase ko lang ngayon sa O1. Okay, kakaklase ko lang ngayon sa O1 and natapos kami dito kaya kita nyo, dito nakapresent yung module natin. Okay. Dito nakapresent kasi dito kami natapos ngayon. So kayo ba, saan ba tayo natapos kahapon? Parang tapos ba na, hindi ba natin tapos to?
Okay.
Sino nakakaalala, guys? Nasa 5 yung challenges. Tama ba? Sige, Miss
Direct lang nakakita sa ating point of moment.
Ang start na po sir dun sa standard procedure for pipeline maintenance.
Okay.
Iba ang focus.
Okay, so dito tayo, diga. So tama nga, nandito tayo natapos yesterday. No? Okay. So yan, mag-prepare kayo kasi magkakaroon tayo ng recitation later on and I think it will be fun. It will be fun kasi talagang dito ko makikita if gumagana ba yung utak nyo. Gumagana ba yung utak nyo. So, let's start with this topic, standard procedure for pipeline maintenance. So the standard procedure for pipeline maintenance is a series of systematic steps that guarantee the safe and efficient operation of the system. So we have 4 components or we have 4 parts, 4 major parts of pipeline maintenance procedures. And the first one is right-of-way clearing. So it includes the removal of trees and roots in order to avoid potential hazards. Furthermore, pipeline repairs are facilitated during emergencies by the maintenance of a distinct right-of-way. Okay, so sa right-of-way clearing, okay, so yung mga vegetation and obstacles, okay, they are removed along the path where the pipeline runs to keep it accessible, diga, and safe. And hindi lang ito yung nagagawa ng right of way clearing, no? Ini-ensure din ito na yung mga maintenance crews natin or yung mga workers natin, they can easily inspect and repair the pipeline, no? And pine-prevent din nito yung mga tree roots or other yung mga nag-grow na plants from damaging it. Okay. Next, hydrostatic testing. So in order to guarantee pipeline's durability and performance, hydrostatic testing is recommended. It includes the connection of the pipelines and the application of water pressure to assess their durability. So itong hydrostatic testing, in simpler terms, no, ito yung process wherein water is pumped into the pipeline at high pressure para ma-check if may leaks ba and para ma-ensure na din yung strength and safety ng pipelines. So, ito ay ginagawa or this is done before the pipeline is used to transport oil or gas. Next, corrosion identification. In order to extend the lifespan of a pipeline, it is important to conduct routine corrosion inspections. Prior to installation, apply anti-corrosive coatings that are suitable for the conduit material. So, common coatings natin include epoxy, polyethylene, and fusion bonded coatings. No? So, hine-help nito na extend yung pipeline's lifespan and para ma-maintain yung integrity ng pipeline. And last one is regular inspections performance. It is essential to conduct routine pipeline inspection in order to promptly identify any maintenance issues. Based on their observations, personnel with years of expertise can proactively address any problems that may arise. Okay, so ito naman, this is a part na wherein ito ay common sense na kasi with regular inspections, we can schedule or we can schedule the maintenance and repairs. Diga. Okay, so now let's proceed to the cross-border pipeline. So another topic na to under the midstream activities or tawag dito under the pipelines. Okay. So before a cross-border pipeline can be constructed, it is necessary for 2 or more sovereign countries to establish contracts and legal frameworks. So alam na naman natin what is cross-border pipeline. Okay? Ito yung mga pipelines wherein ito yung mga nagpa-pass through different countries. Okay? So, syempre, okay, in order for a cross-border pipeline to be constructed, marami itong sinusunod na mga legal frameworks and government laws and regulatory compliance nung country na pagtatayuan ng pipelines. And one of the primary differences between an internal pipeline and cross-border pipeline is that each country has its own specific legal and regulatory frameworks. Okay? There is a need to establish a unique legal framework for each pipeline project after consultation with the relevant countries. In reality, the transaction and operational costs of the pipeline are increased by the incorporation of various legal and regulatory aspects of the country. Yan nga, gaya ng sabi ko, these pipelines allow energy resources to be moved across national borders, helping countries share or trade these resources. Diba? So, important to in the international energy supply and require agreements between governments to manage their construction and operation. And now, let's discuss ano ba yung mga transit countries na. Okay? So, what is the relationship of transit countries to cross-border pipelines? So, in general, a transit country is not involved in the sale or purchase of the oil or gas that is being transported by the pipeline. Its sole responsibility is to permit the pipeline to pass through the country. Transit countries are rewarded with a transit fee for permitting the pipeline pass through their territory, as well as economic rent for permitting the pipeline's continuous operation. Okay, so ibig sabihin lang nito guys, itong mga transit countries na to, in general, ito yung mga countries na dinadaanan ng mga pipelines. So most likely, di sila involved in the sale of oil or gas na tinatransport. But in our four types of pipeline transit system, ito ay hindi laging nasusunod. Okay? Hindi lagi itong nasusunod. Okay? Kasi sometimes the transit countries, kasi dito, explanation dito, yung transit countries, ito lang yung ginagamit or ito lang yung countries na dinadaanan ng mga pipelines, no? And they are just rewarded with transit fees for permitting the pipeline pass through their territory. So, ibig sabihin, they don't have the power, okay? They don't have the power to operate the pipelines. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, wala silang kakayahan na mag-operate ng pipelines. No? Dinadaanan lang sila. Okay? But in our four types, okay, which will be discussed now, okay, madidiscuss natin dito na in different categories or different types, yung mga pipelines or yung mga transit countries natin, they have the power. Okay? And first, i-discuss muna natin to first type. Ito yung first type or first category. So, a pipeline that crosses sovereign territory and transports transit gas without any connection to the gas supply system of the transit country. So, anong ibig sabihin ito? So, ito na yung in general na the oil or gas in the pipeline is not used or accessed by the country or the transit country. Okay, instead, it is transported to another destination. This type of pipeline is essentially just a route for delivering oil or gas from one country to another, with the transit country only providing the land for the pipeline's pathway. So, ibig sabihin lang nito guys, di ginagamit ng transit countries yung gas or crude oil or yung supply na dumadaan sa kanila. Okay? Ang ibig sabihin lang, in transit countries, ang nakukuha lang nila na reward ay transit fees. Okay? Next. Ito na yung second category or second type. A transit pipeline that is primarily used for gas transit but also serves to supply gas of the same origin to the transit country and is owned by a separate entity. So, in this category, the pipeline is owned by a separate company. Okay? And while its main purpose is to move gas across borders, it also serves the transit country's gas needs along the way. This setup allows both the transit and destination countries to benefit from the pipeline's flow of supply. So, ibig sabihin guys, kagaya ng una, this is owned by a separate company. No? And dumadaan lang sa transit countries, okay, yung gas. But in this category, guys, this is different from the first one. No? Ang kinaibahan niya dito, nagbe-benefit na pareho ang transit countries and destination countries sa natatransport na gas. Okay? So, ibig sabihin sa first one, sa first category, yung transit country, hindi sila nagbe-benefit sa gas or sa supply. Ang reward lang na nakukuha nila ay transit fees. But in the second category, yung transit countries, nagbe-benefit na sila sa dumadaan na supply. And at the same time, yung destination countries din, nagbe-benefit din sila sa dumadaan na supply. So, ibig sabihin, dalawa yung nagbe-benefit, transit countries at yung destination country. Okay? Next, a transit pipeline system that is owned and administered by the primary national transmission operator and is integrated into the domestic supply system, the transit gas flow can still be traced. So, medyo magulo to. Okay? Ngayon, explain natin kung anong ibig sabihin nito. This just means that even though the pipeline is part of the country's internal gas network, the transit gas flow meant for other destinations can still be tracked separately. This allows the transit country to use the pipeline for both domestic and international transit. So, ibig sabihin, yung pipeline system is also owned by a separate company. But at the same time, okay, may power na yung transit country. Okay? Nagagamit na ng transit countries yung pipelines for transportation inside their country and para makapag-transport to other countries. So, ibig sabihin, they have the power na. Okay? Naintindihan ba, guys? They have the power na to operate the pipelines. So, ibig sabihin, sa una, sa pangalawa, wala silang power. But in the third category or third type, as alongside with the exporter or with the company na may-ari ng pipeline system, yung transit countries, they have the power na to operate and to transport supply to other countries. Okay, so ibig sabihin may partnership na sila with the other countries na may power na sila doon sa pipelines. They can operate and transport the supply na. And aside from that, nagbe-benefit na sila doon sa supply. Nagbe-benefit na sila ngayon sa supply na sinusupply nila. Kung natural gas man yan, crude oil man yan, or petroleum products man yan. Okay? Next. Systems where transit volumes commingle within a highly meshed national grid. So dito guys, may power na ulit. May power na ulit yung transit countries. And may power din yung other companies. No? Ngayon, yung gas or supply from different sources mixes together as it moves through a complex network of pipelines within a country. This makes it hard to trace exactly where the gas came from as it blends with domestic supply. Despite this, gas still floats to its intended destination, including international borders. Okay, so ibig sabihin lang nito, yung oil or gas from different sources are mixing together as they move through different pipelines within the country. So ibig sabihin, yung gas, okay, or yung supply, hindi na lang siya from one source. Galing na siya sa iba't ibang sources. Okay? Na dumadaan sa transit countries. Kaya ngayon, hindi na natin-trace, okay? Hindi na natin-trace yung supply, kung saan ba siya galing. Kasi marami nang nagmamay-ari ng supply. Okay? The transit countries, the company na may-ari ng pipeline system, and other companies pa na kung saan pwedeng galing pa yung supply. Okay? So, ibig sabihin nun, hindi na na-trace kung saan ba galing yung supply. But, however, yung supply is dumarating pa rin sa destination countries and sa transit countries. Ano, they can still benefit from the supply. Okay? So yun, ano. So, in this topic, magkakaroon tayo ng recitation. So, we have questions. Ano? Okay? So, wait lang. Iinom lang ako, guys, and magsi-CR break lang ako na mabilis kasi from 7 to ngayon, nagkakasa ako, guys. So, wait lang. Mabilis lang. Balik ako mga 2 minutes. Okay, okay. So, let's continue our discussion. Ano? And magkakaroon tayo ng recitation. Okay, so mahirap tong tanong na to, guys. So, ito na talaga yung pinakamahirap na tanong dito sa part na to ng chapter 4. So, I will give big points to those students who can answer correctly. Ano? Okay? So, ito yung tanong. So, meron daw po tayong Central Asian country. Okay? Ang gagawin nyo, guys, pipili lang kayo dito sa apat mo to, ha. Ito yung first category, ito yung second category, ito yung third category, at ito yung fourth category. Okay? So, ito yung tanong. So, meron daw po tayong Central Asian country and gusto nitong mag-export ng natural gas each year to Europe. Okay? So, ngayon, ang only or nag-iisang possible na ruta lang daw ay sa neighboring country. Okay, so ibig sabihin lang dyan, guys, okay. So let's say, okay, para mas maintindihan, ito yung, for example, ito yung Central Asian country. Ito yung exporter. Okay, Central Asian country. Medyo pangit na sulat ko kasi wala akong pen. Ngayon, gusto niya daw mag-supply sa Europe. Let's say ito yung Europe, ha. Okay, ito yung Europe. Okay. Ngayon, ang possible lang daw na ruta para makapag-export itong Central Asian country sa Europe ay may dadaanan daw isang country, neighboring country, which is ito yung transit country natin. Okay? Transit country po. Okay? So, para makapag-supply ha, ito, ganito yung mangyayari. Ngayon, yung transit country, para pumayag siya na makapag-operate ito or makadaan yung supply ng Central Asian country sa kanila, may dalawa siyang demand, itong transit country. So, unang-una na is, it wants some of the gas at a cheaper price for its own people. Okay, so ibig sabihin, gusto ng transit country na mabahagian sila ng supply ng gas, okay, at cheaper price na para sa bansa nila. Okay? And ang pangalawa, it wants partial ownership of the pipeline for more control. No? Yun yung pangalawang demand. Gusto ng transit country na magkaroon sila ng power. Okay? Sa pipeline system, which is owned by Central Asian country. No? Okay? Ngayon, itong exporter or itong Central Asian country is nagwo-worry. Nagwo-worry siya sa tatlong risk. The first is losing control if the pipeline becomes part of the transit country's national system. Nagwo-worry yung exporter or Central Asian country na baka mawalan sila ng control, no, sa pipeline system nila sa transit country. Pangalawa, facing supply interruptions if the transit country gains too much power. No? So, pwedeng magkaroon kasi ng supply interruption since sa kanila dumadaan yung pipelines nila sa transit country. So, kung meron sila ng power, pwedeng mawala o pwedeng magkaroon ng supply interruption. And ang pangatlo is political instability, making long-term deals uncertain. So, pwedeng magkaroon sila ng geopolitical conflicts since, okay, dumadaan sa kanila yung pipeline nila. So, ibig sabihin kung mayroon man sila ng, let's say, disagreements or dispute, diga, magkakaroon ng long-term deals na or long-term delays, diga, sa supply. Okay, so, okay, from the given categories, okay, so, what do you think, okay, or which type should the exporter choose? Okay, so, i-compare nyo, if you can, sa other categories. Okay, so, go. Raise hand sa mga gustong sumagot. Okay, Harina. Okay, sige, si Harina muna. So, go. Sunod ay si Ivan.
So, para po sa akin ay ano po, pinakamaganda pong piliin po ay yung case 4 po. Since nabanggit po yung ang pinakauna pong case ay the transit doesn't benefit from the supply. So, X na po agad yon. Next naman po is yung second case naman po, both po benefit from gas supply. Pero wala naman po masyadong control yung transit country. Next naman po is yung case 3, which is owned po and administered, pipeline is owned po by a separate entity and may power din po yung country. Kaso nabanggit nga din po kanina na if sakali pong mabigyan po ng too much control po yung transit country, posible daw po magkaroon ng supply interruption and losing control po. So para po sa akin, ang pinakamaganda po ay yung case 4 since maoobligahan din po yung transit country na mag-supply din po ng oil and gas, which kahit man po untraceable yung supply, hindi po magkakaroon ng supply interruption kasi both po ng countries ay mag-aambag po sa pag-supply ng oil and gas sa parehas pong country. Yun lang po.
Okay, sige. Next natin ay si Ivan. Sige, go.
So first po, sa unang condition po, I think ito po, mag-abot po siya ng giving gas ownership to the transit country, giving the exporter full control pa din po, but ano po, ang problem lang po is the transit country would have no incentive po to cooperate. So, making the supply interrupted po. So, sa second naman po, which is my choice, I think it gives the transit country the cheaper gas. So, meeting po yung unang demand nila while avoiding naman po direct ownership. So, ito naman po, pinoprotect naman po niya yung exporter from losing control, which meets their demand too. And also, it shared the benefit of reducing the chances of supply interruption because nga po nag-separate siya ng different structure na meet naman po yung demand in terms of the political or the geopolitical ano po yung bag dito yung risk. Next for number 3 is that dito naman po magigib naman po yung transit country ng partial control naman. So which is I think yun po yung ayaw nung exporter. So it also increases naman po the vulnerability to political instability. So which is hindi din po gusto sa demand ng exporter. Lastly, sa pang-apat naman po, parang dito po yung exporter po ay maglulus na po ng control sa kanilang system. Also, it also has a high dependency sa transit country which is parang tumataas po yung risk because of that. So given all of that, option 2 po yung choice because nababalance niya po yung overall na cooperation and control ng both countries, the exporter and the transit. Yan po.
Okay, thank you. So next natin, sige, tatawagin natin lahat ng tumaas. Okay, sunod natin ay si Kyle Marie Loria.
Sa akin naman po, yung category 2 din po. Yung transit pipeline na primarily used for gas transit pero nagbibigay pa rin ng gas supply sa transit country owned by a separate entity. Kasi po, dito po, nabibigyan po ng direct benefit yung transit country wherein nagkakaroon po sila ng share ng gas at mas murang presyo kaya mas motivated po silang pumayag sa project. Pero ang advantage naman po para dun sa exporter, hindi pa rin totally hawak ng transit country yung pipeline system dahil separate entity nga po ang may-ari. So may level of control pa rin ang exporter. So to compare po, yung category 1 po, pure transit only. Mas maganda po sana siya for exporter dahil retain sila ng full control. Pero dito po ay mataas po yung risk na hindi pumayag yung transit country kasi wala po silang nakukuhang pakinabang. Yung category 3 naman po and 4, masyado pong risky kasi halos nawawala po yung control ng exporter. Madali din pong may interrupt yung supply. Tsaka vulnerable sila sa geopolitical conflicts or bargaining power ng transit country. So, yun po. Kaya po, category 2 yung pinaka-balanced option. Kasi po, nagbibigay po ng incentive sa transit country habang nami-minimize pa rin po yung risks ng exporter sa mga nabanggit sa supply interruption po, yung loss of control and yung political conflict. Sa long-term aspect naman po, mas sustainable po siya para po dun sa both exporter tsaka transit country. Ayun po.
Okay, so yan. Dalawang 2 categories, tama. Next natin, I see Rodrigo.
Yes po, sir. Sir, yung akin po medyo maiba. And given the situation po and problem, mas better po na yung Central Asian country is mas wise na piliin yung Category 1, which indicates a pipeline that crosses sovereign territory and transit gas without any connection to the gas supply system of the transit country, which mean exporter o yung Central Asian countries ang may full ownership and control ng pipeline system kasi kung bibigyan nila ng partial ownership yung transit countries, mawawalan sila ng control at pwede magka-risk ng supply interruptions kapag nagkaroon ng dispute. and better and mas safe na sila pa rin yung maghawak ng pipeline tapos i-compensate po yung transit country sa pamamagitan ng transit fees na tinatawag natin at pagbibigay ng parte ng gas sa mas mura o sa mababang presyo. Sa ganitong paraan po, natutugunan pa rin yung demands ng transit country pero hindi nawawala yung long-term control ng exporter which is yung Central Asian countries po.
Okay, sige, next natin I see Roncap.
Sa akin po, sir, ang napili ko po ay yung type 2. Kung i-compare po natin, meron naman po lahat silang disadvantages sa mga exporter side tsaka po sa transit country side. Para po sa ating type 1, dito po, ang disadvantages po ng ating exporter side ay yung might face political pressure from the transit country po. Kasi hindi po sila sobrang nagbe-benefit. Para sa transit country side naman po, meron tayong disadvantages na no direct gas supply, wala rin pong cheaper gas para sa mga tao, and also wala po silang influence para sa pipeline po. As a result po, yung exporter lang po ang sobrang nagbe-benefit while yung transit country naman po natin ay nale-left out po. For the type 2 naman po, ito po yung aking pinili. And lahat naman po, ang sa nabanggit ko ay meron po silang disadvantages. Pero ito pong type 2 kasi ay medyo konti lang po ang kanyang disadvantages. For the exporter side, ang disadvantages po niya ay yung po, kailangan po niyang mag-share ng ng gas at sa mababang presyo po. While the transit country side naman po ay still limited po siya. Kasi hindi naman po sila yung may-ari nung oil po. At wala rin po silang control dun po sa system nila. At as a result naman po dito, parehas pong side ay nagbe-benefit, both po yung exporter tsaka yung transit country po. Sa type 3 naman po, ang disadvantages po niya sa exporter side is naglo-loss po siya ng control. Because pipeline is run by transit countries operator, meron po siyang higher chance of supply interruptions at dependence on transit country na nagkikreate po ng long-term risk. For the transit country side naman po, meron siya pong disadvantages na responsibility for operation increases such as maintenance po tsaka yung safety niya. For the type 4 naman po, sa exporter side, meron siyang disadvantages na sobrang liit lang po ng kanyang pang-control, and also it cannot clearly track how much gas goes to Europe versus the transit country po. Mataas din po yung kanyang risk sa interruption at masasabi ko pong mas sobrang weak po niya compared po sa ating transit country side. Pero sa transit country side po kasi natin, meron pong disadvantages na mas mataas po yung responsibility niya at political pressure sa Europe po. Yun po. To summarize po, my strategy, yung type 1 po natin ay ang mas nagbe-benefit po dito yung exporter po, while yung transit po natin ay naglo-loss po. Sa type 2 naman po, parehas naman po silang best or both sides benefits. For type 3 naman po, ang transit po ang mas lamang kaysa sa ating exporter po when it comes to power. While the type 4, ang transit naman po ang panalo dito po. Tapos yung exporter po natin ang naglo-loss po ng malaki. Yun po, sir.
Okay, so yan So ang gaganda ng explanation niyo, guys. Okay. So lalo na yung kay sa pauli natin kay Calvin. So yan, thank you very much kasi dito sa question na to, guys, no. Okay. Dalawa talaga yung pwedeng magsagot dito. Kasi depende talaga yan sa transit country, diga? Okay? Kasi syempre, if you are going to choose, okay, among these among these categories, kailangan talaga syempre masunod talaga kahit papaano yung demand ng transit countries. Kasi syempre, if yung transit country at the very first place ay hindi sila masusunod, hindi sila papayag, di ba? Hindi sila papayag na magkaroon ng transportation from this Central Asian country to Europe. Di ba? So, explain muna ulit natin isa-isa or let's summarize the categories. Di ba? So, dito guys, sa una nating category, di ba? Ano sabi ko dito? So, ang transit countries dito, wala silang matatanggap na kahit ano, aside from the transit fees. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, yung dalawang demand na sinabi ko, which is, it wants some of the gas at a cheaper price for its people, hindi na agad mamimit. Tama? At yung it wants partial ownership of the pipeline for more control, hindi rin mamimit. So, ibig sabihin guys, hindi na to pwede. No? Hindi na agad papayag dito yung transit countries. Diba? Kasi ang magtatanggap lang nila dito ay transit fees. Wala silang matatanggap na supply ng gas, wala rin silang matatanggap na partial ownership. No? Okay, so ibig sabihin X na agad yun. Let's discuss the case number 4 naman or category number 4. Wherein, ang sabi ko dito, maraming sources na pinanggagalingan yung supply. And guys, okay, sinabi ko sa problem, hindi kasama yung transit countries sa magsusupply. Ano? Okay? Kumbaga sila ay dinadaanan lang ng pipelines and kaya nga nila gustong magkaroon ng power when it comes to the pipeline system para magkaroon din sila ng opportunity na mag-supply sa other countries. So, ibig sabihin, itong case number 4, ito na yung talagang pinaka hindi possible na mangyari kasi wala tayong ibang exporter aside from the Central Asian country. Diga, isa lang yung exporter natin. Diga, Central Asian country lang. No? So, ibig sabihin, hindi pwedeng mag-commingle or mag-mix together yung supply ng Central Asian from the other suppliers or from the other sources kasi wala naman siyang kalaban. Diga, or wala siya naman siyang competitors. Diga, ibig sabihin, mamimili lang tayo sa dalawang to, case 2 and case 3. Wherein, itong case 2, ito yung mas pinili nyo kasi in this particular case, diga, ang sabi natin dito, yung transit country ay masusuplayan ng gas, which is mamimit yung demand. Yung first demand, which is it wants some of the gas at a cheaper price for its own people. Tama? So, ibig sabihin, mamimit yung first demand nila, which is masusuplayan sila ng gas, diga, at the cheaper price. No. However, in this kind of category, wala silang ownership. Hindi sila bibigyan ng ownership. No? Madadaanan lang sila ng gas. Okay? Magkakaroon lang sila ng transit fees. And at the same time, masusuplayan sila ng gas at cheaper price. No? Okay, but the second demand, hindi ito mamimit. No? Kasi it wants partial ownership of the pipeline for more control. And sabi natin, ito ay owned by a separate entity or company. So, which is owned by Central Asian countries. So, ito guys, if the transit countries will accept or would accept, okay, this kind or this type of category, okay, pwede. However, talo siya dito, talo yung transit country dito. So, ibig sabihin, pwede ito maging answer. Okay, pwede na kasing pumayag dito yung transit country. Diga, hindi naman kasi natin alam eh. So, pwedeng pumayag na dito kasi na-meet yung isang demand na gusto ng transit country. However, yung tama sabi ni Calvin, medyo talo dito yung transit countries. Lamang dito yung exporter. Or sila yung mas magbe-benefit. Tama? Kasi masusuplayan yung transit countries, masusuplayan pa din nila yung Europe. And at the same time, they have the authority, they have the power in their pipeline system. Tama? Okay, so ibig sabihin pwede to. Next, pwede rin to. Okay? And dito sa part na to, ang sabi ko, masusuplayan yung transit countries. Tama? Masusuplayan to. Okay? Masusuplayan to. And at the same time, itong transit countries na to, okay, yung second demand nila mamimit. Kasi magkakaroon na sila ng partial ownership of the pipeline for more control. Okay, so ibig sabihin, ito talaga yung pinaka most likely is mangyayari. Bakit? Kasi syempre, dito sa third category natin, na-meet yung dalawang demand ng transit countries. Tama? Yan, na-meet yung dalawang demand niya. Yung una, yung benefit from cheaper price, and yung pangalawa is yung partial ownership for more control. No? However, in this part or in this category, no, nandito na yung mga risk. Dito na papasok yung mga risk ng Central Asian country. No? Dito na pwedeng mangyari yung loss of control, dito na mangyayari yung supply interruptions, and dito na din pwedeng maganap yung mga geopolitical conflicts kasi nagkameron na ng power yung transit countries, no? Okay? So, ibig sabihin, if they would let the transit countries na to have power, doon na talaga papasok yung risk. So, kaya sabi ko, dalawa yung pwedeng maging sagot. No? Dalawa talaga yung pinaka-possible answer dito, which is ito, pag dito, nasa exporter pa rin talaga yung full power, full control ng pipeline system. Pag dito naman, itong category number 3, dito na papasok yung mga risk. And itong dalawang to, pwede itong piliin. Pwede itong piliin ng Central Asian country. Kasi bakit? Kasi sa huli naman, transit countries pa rin talaga yung magde-decide kung papayag sila. Diba? Okay? Kasi kung let's say, for example, pinili ng exporter itong category number 2, ayaw naman ni transit countries, diba? So, wala siyang choice kundi pumayag sa category number 3, which is magkakameron ng power yung transit countries. No? Pero pwede rin naman na mangyari si transit countries, pipiliin din niya or papayag na siya dito kasi nagbe-benefit na siya sa cheaper price. Diba? Okay, so naiintindihan ba guys? So, ibig sabihin, 2 or 3 pwedeng piliin na yung 1 and 4, yun talaga yung least options na or least possible case na pwedeng mapili. Okay, so yun, so thank you. No, ang ganda ng mga explanation nyo guys, lalo na yung explanation ni Calvin at ni Miss Gloria. So ang ganda ng explanation nila. So thank you for your answers. No, so yan, I'll give big points to them, no, sa mga sumagot. No, okay, and to those students na hindi napili yung best options for me, okay, I'll give you points pa rin. Binigyan ko pa rin kayo ng points. No? Okay, so now let's discuss. Okay, we have 10 minutes pa. Okay, I think matatapos natin hanggang dito naman, hanggang sa part na to. Okay, before we end our discussion. Okay, let's discuss the economic aspects of cross-border pipelines. So ito na daw po yung mga factors na nakaka-affect sa cross-border pipelines economically. So there are 5 aspects to the economics of cross-border pipelines. They are economies of scale of the pipeline, the life of the pipeline, the involvement of governments, the place of the pipelines in the value chain, and the vulnerability of the pipeline with regard to market failure. So the first one is economies of scale of the pipeline. So cross-border pipelines are distinguished by their high fixed costs and low variable costs. So, alam na natin to, no? So, ito yung CAPEX, ito yung OPEX. So, when the pipeline and its associated works are constructed, the pipeline's primary expenses occur. Nevertheless, the cost is dependent upon the location of the pipeline's construction. So, alam na natin to, wherein yung fixed cost, mataas yan kasi yung CAPEX because yan yung building and maintaining the infrastructure. No, yun na yung mga installation of pipes, pumping stations, and yung mga regulatory compliance. So, it requires large investments. Diba? So, once the pipeline is operational, doon na papasok yung OPEX natin, the ongoing cost to transport each unit of product like oil or gas are relatively low. So, yung variable cost natin, much lower. No? Okay? Next, life of the pipeline. Any pipeline may have an average lifespan of more than 20 years, 20 to 40 years. Diba? So, this project necessitates the cooperation, dedication, and flexibility of all stakeholders. It is a long-term investment. Since the pipeline is a fixed structure, there is a limited flexibility in terms of its relocation once it has been constructed. So, sabi nga natin, 20 to 40 years if maintained properly. Okay? Next, the involvement of governments. The effective operation of pipeline is dependent upon the cooperation of governments. The pipeline is frequently subject to state control as it is perceived as having national and strategic significance by the majority of government. So however, no, okay, too much government involvement in pipeline projects, this can lead to delays and extra costs because of red tape and complicated rules. So this makes it harder for the companies to get things done efficiently, and it can scare away it can scare away the investment of the companies. Ano kasi alam naman natin, too much involvement ng mga government, it only cause dispute or disagreement between the government and the companies, 'di ba? Okay? So, talagang nakakaapekto 'yun when it comes to the cross-border pipelines kasi siyempre lagi namang ang two parties na involved diyan is yung companies and yung government, 'di ba? Okay? So next, the place of pipelines in the value chain. The project is also influenced by the value of the commodity that is passing through a pipeline. The control of a pipeline can have consequences for the parties engaged in the project, such as producers, consumers, or third parties. This is due to the fact that certain parties may be involved in both the upstream and downstream aspects of a project. Okay, so sa part na to, syempre yung value ng commodity in a pipeline, nakakaapekto ito sa project decisions because yung higher value products can affect the cost of buildings and maintenance of the pipelines. So, ibig sabihin lang kung mataas yung value ng commodity natin or asset natin or supply natin, let's say natural gas or petroleum products or crude oil, syempre, yung construction and value rin ng mga equipment, materials na gagamitin, tataas din yun, di ba? Okay? Next, vulnerability of pipelines in regard to market failure. The construction of a pipeline can occasionally result in environmental and ecological damage, particularly if the pipeline path passes through an environmentally sensitive area. Additionally, it is probable that any violation in the pipeline will result in harm to the environment. The security of supply is also a concern, as any disruption in the supply will result in problems for the consumers. Okay, so, ibig sabihin lang nito, vulnerable yung mga pipelines natin in market failure if yung demand for the product ay magdadrop. Ano, di ka? Okay, so ibig sabihin, yung mga companies natin, mahihirapan silang i-recover yung cost nila. So, ibig sabihin nito, pwede itong mag-lead sa reduced investment in pipeline projects because the companies can see or they may see or they may not see a profit. No? Wala silang makikitang profit doon, di ba? Pag ganun yung nangyayari. So, when there's uncertainty about the market, it can make it risky for the investors or for the company to put money into new pipelines. Okay? So yun, so I think dito ko na puputulin yung ating discussion. Dito natin puputulin yung ating discussion kasi 10:26 na rin naman and I think mabibitin lang tayo at hindi na natin 'to matatapos. And I think this part naman napakadali lang nito, guys. Ulit-ulit lang 'tong part na 'to, no? Okay, I think pwede na tayo mag-start next Monday sa chapter 5, no? So tama-tama lang tayo. So next week is week 8. So the last week for your